Trump plan. After months of lies and empty promises, he's told us the terrifying truth. His herd immunity plan is to infect 7 out of 10 Americans with COVID. The Trump plan will kill at least 3 million people. In April, he admitted a herd immunity plan was deadly.
And if we did follow that approach, I think we might have 2 million people dead.
This week, he admitted it's his real plan.
With time, it goes many deaths. And you'll develop herd, like a herd mentality. It's going to be herd developed, and that's going to happen.
Say goodbye to your parents, your neighbors, your friends, because the Trump plan will kill millions in the next 4 years. People you love, people you care about, maybe even you.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I'm Miles Taylor. I served as the Chief of Staff of the Department of Homeland Security under the Donald Trump administration. I would go into the office, I would read my intelligence brief, and then it was my job to help the Department of Homeland Security to keep our country safe. What we saw week in and week out, and for me after 2.5 years in that administration, was terrifying. We would go in to try to talk to him about a pressing national security issue, cyber attack, terrorism threat. He wasn't interested in those things. To him, they weren't priorities. The president wanted to exploit the Department of Homeland Security for his own political purposes and to fuel his own agenda. The California wildfires. On a phone call with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, he told FEMA to cut off the money and to no longer give individual assistance to California. He told us to stop giving money to people whose houses had burned down from a wildfire because he was so rageful that people in the state of California didn't support him and that politically it wasn't a base for him. The policies at the border, he wanted to restart zero tolerance and separate families. He said he wanted to go further and have a deliberate policy of ripping children away from their parents to show those parents that they shouldn't come to the border in the first place. A lot of the time, the things he wanted to do not only were impossible, but in many cases illegal. He didn't want us to tell him it was illegal anymore because he knew that there were, and these were his words, he knew that he had magical authorities. He was one of the most unfocused and undisciplined senior executives I've ever encountered. I came away completely convinced based on firsthand experience that the president was ill-equipped and wouldn't become equipped to do his job effectively. And what's worse, was actively doing damage to our security. People who are still serving in this administration have said to me, just wait until the second term. It'll be no holds barred. It'll be shock and awe. We'll do what we want. Given what I've experienced in the administration, I have to support Joe Biden for president. And even though I'm not a Democrat, even though I disagree on key issues, I'm confident that Joe Biden will protect the country. And I'm confident he won't make the same mistakes as this president.
Small businesses everywhere are closing their doors, and only the large businesses and Trump's cronies can receive any real tangible help. And every small business that closes represents an American losing their life's work, their investments, and their savings. And I can tell you from personal experience, because my own personal business is gone. It's done for. All my hard work, all my investment, all my planning, it's history because of the COVID pandemic and the way that Trump failed to manage it. And my personal finances are wrecked, and the future is more uncertain than ever before. And it breaks my heart to see so many other people in every state of the country going through the exact same thing, because there's no rich benefactor to bail us out. We're on our own. This country has never been so divided, and the global community has lost all respect for us because they see what a hateful nation we have become. And so I'm going to ask everyone, please don't vote third party. We need Biden and Harris to win. And I know they're not perfect, and I don't agree with all their philosophies, but they're decent people, and you can tell they care. And once they're elected, things can only get better. And Trump and his supporters can go back to the racist swamp where they belong. Please vote for Biden and Harris. Thank you.
I'm Olivia Troy. I was Homeland Security and Counterterrorism Advisor to Vice President Pence and served as Vice President Pence's lead staff member on the COVID-19 response. You know, I'd been on the COVID task force from day one. I mean, the virus was very unpredictable at the beginning. There were a lot of unknowns, but towards the middle of February, we knew it wasn't a matter of if COVID would become a big pandemic here in the United States. It was a matter of when. But the president didn't want to hear that because his biggest concern was that we were in an election year and how is this going to affect what he considered to be his record of success. It was shocking to see the president saying that the virus was a hoax, saying that everything's okay when we know that it's not. The truth is, he doesn't actually care about anyone else but himself. He made a statement once that was very striking. I never forgot it because it pretty much defined who he was. When we were in a task force meeting, the president said, maybe this COVID thing is a good thing. I don't like shaking hands with people. I don't have to shake hands with these disgusting people. Those disgusting people are the same people that he claims to care about. These are the people still going to his rallies today who have complete faith in who he is. If the president had taken this virus seriously, or if he had actually made an effort to tell how serious it was, he would have slowed the virus spread. He would have saved lives. It was the opportunity and honor of a lifetime to be able to serve in the White House. I put my heart and soul into this role every single day. But at some point, I would come home at night, I would look myself in the mirror and say, are you really making a difference? Does it matter? Because no matter how hard you work and what you do, the president is going to do something that is detrimental to keeping Americans safe, which is why you signed up for this role. It was awful. It was terrifying. I have been a Republican for my entire life. I am a McCain Republican, I am a Bush Republican, and I am voting for Joe Biden because I truly believe we are at a time of constitutional crisis. At this point, it's country over party.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Newman. I am first and foremost a follower of Jesus Christ. I'm a wife and a proud mom. I voted for Trump in 2016 primarily because of the pro-life issue. I served in the Trump administration at the Department of Homeland Security and became the Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism and Threat Prevention. In my role as Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism, we looked at emerging threats, including the growing threat from domestic terrorists. And over the period of 2017 to 2018, we started to see that rise of the white supremacist agenda. I and my leadership at the Department of Homeland Security were very clear that we found the ideology behind white nationalism, white supremacy to be a growing threat. A very common refrain that I was asked was, does the president's rhetoric make your job harder? And the answer is yes. The president's actions and his language are in fact racist. Things like, they're good people on both sides, or send them back from where they came from. Those words gave permission to white supremacists to think that what they were doing was permissible. And I do think that the president's divisive language is indirectly tied to some of the attacks that we have seen in the last 2 years. The reason government is supposed to exist is to plan and prepare for external threats like we're seeing today with COVID. There were plans put in place for a pandemic for 15 years. When we started to see that a pandemic was on its way to our shores in January, any number of experts told me we need to be executing on these plans. But from January until March 11th, what you saw instead was a number of good public servants attempting to do their job and the president telling them to stop because he didn't want the economy to tank and he didn't want a distraction from his campaign. I'm sorry, Mr. President. You were hired to handle America's worst day, and you've absolutely failed. I do not think that we can afford 4 more years of President Trump. We are less safe today because of his leadership. We will continue to be less safe as long as he is in control. And this year I'll be voting for Joe Biden.
I think the only thing that matters is what, at the end of the day, what people are saying about him. He watches people. He watches the news. You've seen him on Twitter. I mean, we have been in meetings where we were supposed to be talking about the virus and either travel restrictions or how we were going to evacuate people off of cruise ships, which was a big issue at the very beginning of this pandemic, and what we're going to do with them. And he wanted to talk for 45 minutes on how upset he was with some news anchor at his preferred news network and who was going to take care of that problem. And he looked around the room and said, who's going to call this person and set them straight? Well, the rest of us are sitting in the room. I saw people looking down at the floor, looking down at the desk or the table in front of them or their shoes, thinking we have actual items on this agenda that we really need to discuss. And time matters right now. But instead, we're going to go resolve your concern about whatever some news anchor said off the cuff that upset you. That is who President Trump is. That's what he cares about. And that is a factual story, by the way. 45 minutes of going off on Tucker Carlson about how he treated Kellyanne Conway. And Hope, are you going to call him? Who's going to call him? I mean, seriously, this went on for 45 minutes.
If I lose to him, I don't know what I'm going to do. I will never speak to you again. You'll never see me again.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.